Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Troilus and Cressida, and we are still in this very long Act 1, Scene 3. And so far, mostly in this scene, we've heard from Ulysses, and he's been railing on how ineffective he thinks the Greeks have been in this war. He himself is Greek, and he's talking to a whole bunch of other Greeks. And his point is not that Troy is such a formidable enemy that they haven't been able to make any headway in the last 7 years, but that the Greek army is kind of falling apart. You know, everybody hates their superiors, nobody knows whose orders they're supposed to be following, and several of the top commanders in the Greek army, including Achilles and Ajax and some others, just sit around mocking the other commanders in the Greek army, including Agamemnon and Nestor and people like that, to the point where nobody is actually taking any orders anymore. They're not following commands, they're not doing anything like that. So he was sort of focused on Achilles doing these sort of mocking, well, it wasn't Achilles that was doing them, it was Achilles that was laughing as Patroclus did all of these over-exaggerated caricature type imitations. And then in yesterday's monologue, we had Nestor throwing in there that Ajax is almost doing the same thing. He thinks himself as cool as Achilles, so he's sort of following in Achilles' footsteps. And then Ulysses sort of finishes off his point by saying they tax our policy and call it cowardice, count wisdom as no member of the war, forestall prescience, and esteem no act but that of hand. The still and mental parts that do contrive how many hands shall strike when fitness calls them on, and know by measure of their observant toil the enemy's weight. Why, this hath not a finger's dignity. They call this dead work, mappery, closet war, so that the ram that batters down the wall, for the great swing and rudeness of his poise, they place before his hand that made the engine, or those that with the fineness of their souls by reason guide his execution. So he's basically just finishing off the thought. He's saying that nobody wants to pay attention to policy, nobody's strategizing about anything, and anything that does involve strategy, like figuring out how strong the opposing army is dismissed as stupid and pointless and boring and all of that sort of thing. And he's like, you know, how are we supposed to win a war? Like, these people, if the battering ram isn't strong enough, they're like blaming the guy that built the battering ram. They're not trying to figure out a way to get into Troy without a battering ram, sort of a thing. So he's very frustrated with the Greek army at this point, and making the point that the Greek army is very ineffectual. And Nestor has a quick little comment to add on to it, but then a trumpet sounds and Aeneas enters. Aeneas is a Trojan commander, but he's kind of a friendly guy, so he's been sent and he has a message, but this message is specifically for Agamemnon. So first there's the whole, is this Agamemnon's tent? Yes, it is. How can I be sure? Because, you know, they didn't have photographs back in the day. They couldn't just like Google Agamemnon and see what he looked like. He has to be like, well, I've heard Agamemnon looks like this. You kind of look like that, and blah, blah, blah. And then he finally gets to the, okay, I believe that you're Agamemnon. I have something that I need to tell you, and you only. And Agamemnon's like, you're going to say in front of everybody because you're a Trojan. So no, I'm not having everybody else leave the room so that you can tell me something. And what Aeneas' message for Agamemnon is, will be tomorrow's monologue. So I'll see you then for that. Mwah.